What will happen on the 25th is that the police and some big administrators, they will come by here and they stand in front of the gate and they realize that we are not gone. And that's the moment where they call the mayor. And then the mayor pushes a button and then the eviction machine starts rolling. And I have no idea what will be happening after that day. I came on the ADM, on this terrain, in 1992. And 5 years later we squatted the terrain. That day, it was in October 1997, we departed from the center by boat, by tractor, by bike, by car. And with 125 people we went on the terrain and we just squatted it.
Okay, yeah, so that's kind of the plan, I think.
There's a plan. There's a plan.
The story changed, let's say something like 3-4 years ago, when the owner found a possible user of the terrain. In the agreement it was that you can only use it as a shipbuilding yard. I suppose it was fairly difficult to find someone who could make this a credible story, and well, he found one, and then he started the litigation about eviction, and that's about 3 years ago.
The city what it is in the first place. Our city authorities are entering into negotiation with ADM Amsterdam with an attitude as if they are making a favor to the squatters. Yet it is the other way around. The city owes its reputation and attractiveness, its character and its allure to the free spirit, the community, cultural and political activities of free places which are disseminated in the entire city, maintaining its spirit alive. Thank you. Thank you very much.
The illegalization of free places, of squatting back in 2010, was basically the start of the end that process that made the city what it is. So basically the city is unrecognizable anymore. It was the beginning of the end of Amsterdam, the 2010 legalization. The few places, 3 places that remain around are very crucial to be rescued and actually be allowed to cultivate these political, social and cultural activities that are disseminated in the entire city and actually give the spirit, its own spirit to Amsterdam. The spirit of Amsterdam is based on 3 places.
More than 20 years ago.
Oh, wow.
She built it herself from the straw bales as a room for her child. And now she's grown up and she's moved to town, so we use it now for different purposes. Yeah.
So always also family lives here?
Oh yes, yeah, many children grew up here. About 40 kids in total spent at least a big part of their childhood here. So not all of them were born here. Some came when they were a few years old. Not all of them stayed here until they were adults. Some of them moved to other countries, or not everybody who came stayed. But the group did get bigger through the years.
When you talk about the Amsterdam subculture and how that has been changed in the last 10-20 years, then you could say it in one word: an incredible change. Like 10-20 years ago we had a huge subculture, and nowadays there's still a strong subculture, but the way the subculture manifests itself has been changed completely. Subculture for a long time was closely related to free places, and the characteristics of a free place is that there's hardly any government interference, that the inhabitants of the free space, that they more or less define their own rules and relations and how to deal with society. And the typical free places, like in the squats, like you used to have, they have been diminished a lot because of the squatting, which came in action in 2010.
750 jaar Amsterdam, die komt er binnenkort aan en wij vieren die verjaardag omdat wij de tij weten te keren. Dank jullie wel. We zien jullie met de kerst op ADM.
In the last 20-30 years, the protest to claim free space in Amsterdam, to make changes in the capitalistic society, on what level doesn't matter, nuclear energy, feminism, anti-militarism, squatting, social housing, all that has been changed a lot. The main reason, I think, is internet. In the times when internet was not as widespread as it is now, one of the biggest means to protest was to go on the street. Very practical. We have the internet, and although we can send out huge mailings, it's even more difficult to get the people on the street than in the old days. You need to do a lot of work. You need to use the media strategy the commercial propaganda is using on TV and on internet to convince people to participate.
Really a unique case because, of course, it's now some 30 years later very difficult to interpret what was exactly the intention of the municipality at the time. At the time they thought that it was very necessary to have a shipyard there, and of course the economy has changed enormously, so at this time it's very much the question whether you would want to use the terrain as such. And that's of course something on the background